Welcome to our channel. Are you ready to embark on thrilling adventures across the cosmos, encounter mysterious alien civilizations, and explore the unknown depths of space? If so, you've come to the right place. Subscribe and join our community of fellow sci-fi enthusiasts who love diving into epic tales and futuristic explorations. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an exciting new story. We want to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing your favorite sci-fi moment, or let us know what kind of adventures you'd like to see next. Your feedback helps us create the stories you crave. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to journey beyond the stars as we begin our latest saga.
We are not your pawns in a game. We are the future. In a galaxy far from the reach of ordinary human eyes, there existed a kingdom where beauty and strength appeared in ways no one expected. Zane Harper, a decorated warrior from Earth, had fought countless battles, but none that could prepare him for the challenge ahead. When summoned to the grand crystalline halls of Lumia Prime, he was about to meet a woman whose spirit would reshape everything he believed about strength and destiny. At the heart of the royal palace, King Darien sat upon his throne, burdened by the weight of centuries of tradition. By his side, Princess Vera, blind and paralyzed, ruled not through power, but through an intellect as sharp as any weapon. Her people saw her only for her physical limitations, disabilities that hid the fierce leader and brilliant diplomat beneath the surface. But Zane saw her differently. He stepped into the grand throne room, his boots echoing against the polished crystal floors. The air was thick with whispers of a mission, one that could change the fate of not only the Lumian kingdom, but also two worlds. It was here, in this very room, that Princess Vera would challenge everything Zane thought he knew about strength, love, and what it meant to truly fight for something worth believing in. What happens when the boundaries of two worlds blur, when a warrior faces the unexpected task of loving a woman seen as unworthy by so many? This is the story of that impossible bond, a bond that begins with a fight, but is ultimately won by love. Stay with me as we journey through a world where love defies the odds and the impossible becomes reality. The southern provinces of Lumia Prime stretched before them like a dream, with shimmering crystalline spires rising from the iridescent flora. Zane Harper sat beside Princess Vera in their shuttle, gazing at the breathtaking landscape through the viewport. Despite the peaceful beauty outside, the tension inside was palpable. Vera, her fingers delicately dancing over a holographic interface designed for her use, broke the silence. Tomorrow, we meet with the Zarian Empire's ambassador, Vorn. He's not here for diplomacy, Zane. He's here for me. Zane raised an eyebrow. You? Are we talking about your mind, your skills, or? Vera smirked, her blind eyes somehow locking onto him with uncanny precision. Both, actually. The Zarians value mental ability over physical strength, and Vorn seems convinced that my condition makes me the perfect match for him in their culture. I'm a weapon they want to wield. Zane couldn't help but chuckle, his voice warm with a mix of amusement and admiration. Let me guess, he doesn't know that Princess Vera is a woman who'd rather rule than be ruled? You're catching on, Vera replied with a quiet, confident smile. Vorn is the seventh son of the Zarian Emperor, and his ambitions are well known. He thinks that by aligning with me, he'll gain access to technologies beyond his wildest dreams. But I'm not just some tool to be used. Zane's tone shifted, becoming more serious. I understand. So you're not planning on just playing along, are you? Vera's lips curved into a knowing smile. No, Zane. I intend to make sure this alliance is not built on lies. It's not about my physical state. It's about what I can offer, my mind, my experience, and my loyalty. But if the Zarians think they can just use me like a pawn, they have another thing coming. Zane nodded, clearly impressed. You're a force, Princess, but I'll stand by you. I won't let them manipulate you. Vera tilted her head slightly. I appreciate that, Zane. But know this, I don't need anyone to protect me. I've survived much worse than anything Vorn could throw at me. Zane's gaze softened. I'm not here to protect you, Vera. I'm here to stand with you. She gave him a subtle smile, her eyes still focused on the holographic display. Then let's see if we can survive Vorn together. We've got a long road ahead, and I suspect tomorrow will be interesting. The shuttle hummed softly as it descended toward the provincial palace, the tension between the two palpable, though unspoken. Zane couldn't help but admire Vera's strength. She had a presence about her that made her seem invincible despite her physical limitations. And as much as he admired her for it, there was something else that intrigued him even more. Something deeper, something that went beyond her diplomatic prowess. There was a fire within her that burned brighter than anything he'd ever encountered, and he was beginning to realize just how much he wanted to see it grow. As they disembarked from the shuttle, the palace's gleaming crystals surrounded them, and Vera's hover throne moved effortlessly beside her, responding to the slightest of her commands. Zane's eyes widened, amazed by the seamless technology that seemed to bend to Vera's will. "You control all of this?" Zane asked, his voice full of wonder. Vera's lips curled into a playful grin. "It's not about control, it's about harmony. I've learned to feel the technology, Zane. It responds to my thoughts, my intentions. It's an extension of who I am, not something I dominate." Zane was silent for a moment, taking in her words. There was something profoundly beautiful in the way she described it, a bond between herself and the technology that went beyond command. It was as though the crystals themselves had been designed to match her energy, to amplify her strength. He could see it in the way her hover throne moved with such grace, as if it were more than just a tool. It was part of her. "I'm starting to see what you mean," Zane admitted, his voice softer now. Vera caught his gaze, her blind eyes seeming to pierce through him. "I'm not what people expect, Zane, and that's exactly why I'll never let them define me. I have the power to change this world, to reshape it, but it's not going to be through force. It will be through understanding, through connection. And if you're with me, Zane, you'll see it too." Zane felt a surge of admiration. He had always been a fighter, a man who used his strength to conquer. But what Vera was saying, what she was showing him, was something entirely different. This wasn't about dominating. This was about connection, about harmony. And he realized in that moment that he wanted to learn how to be part of that. As they walked into the provincial palace, Zane could feel the eyes of the court on them, the whispers of skepticism thick in the air. But Vera walked forward with her head held high, her presence unwavering, and Zane knew that, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The evening before the meeting with Vorn, the grand hall of the provincial palace was a whirlpool of activity. Courtiers whispered behind ornate fans, eyes glinting with suspicion, as they glanced at Zane, the outsider in their midst. Despite the calm exterior of the palace, the air crackled with unspoken hostility. There was something about the human warrior's presence that unsettled the court, especially those aligned with the Zarian Empire. As Vera and Zane walked through the corridors, the murmurs of the courtiers followed them like a distant storm. Zane kept his focus straight ahead, his military-trained instincts on alert. He could feel the tension in the air, but Vera seemed unfazed, her regal demeanor unshaken by the quiet judgments of those around her. "You feel it too, don't you?" Vera said, her voice low but steady. Zane nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "They're not happy to see me here." "They never are," Vera replied, her lips curling slightly. "A human in a Lumian court? It's unsettling for them, but it's nothing I can't handle." Her calm confidence was a comfort, but Zane still couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. As much as Vera trusted her abilities, the Zarians had never been known for playing fair, especially when it came to manipulating alliances. He wondered how much of this tension was genuine concern for their success, and how much was an orchestrated effort to destabilize the royal court. Their arrival at the meeting room was greeted with cool silence. Lord Roland, the chief administrator of the province, stood at the head of the table, his silver skin glinting beneath the dim light. His violet eyes narrowed as he noticed Zane's presence, and he gave a slight bow to Vera, though his greeting seemed perfunctory at best. "Your Highness," Lord Roland began, his voice smooth, yet tinged with suspicion. "I see the rumors of your companion are true. A human amongst us is unconventional." Zane stood tall, his posture unyielding. "I'm here as both an advisor and a bodyguard. My presence won't interfere with your negotiations." Vera's voice interrupted before Lord Roland could respond. "It's not his presence that concerns you, Lord Roland. It's the fact that you'll need to accept that Zane is not a political pawn in my father's game. His loyalty is to me, and that's all that matters." The look of surprise on Lord Roland's face was evident, and a flicker of frustration passed through his eyes. He quickly masked it, nodding. Of course, Princess Vera. Your unique choice of companionship will certainly be noted. However, the Zarians are known for their aggressive methods in court politics. We should proceed with caution. Vera's fingers twitched slightly over the crystal interface on her hover throne, a sign that she was growing impatient with the political games. I'm not concerned with their methods, Lord Roland. What matters is that we handle this with integrity. Zane noticed the slight tension in Vera's voice, a reminder that, despite her outward composure, the political undercurrents were starting to wear on her. He leaned slightly toward her, his voice soft but steady. We're in this together. Just remember, no matter how they try to twist things, I've got your back. She turned her head slightly, and although she couldn't see him, Zane felt the weight of her gaze. I know, she replied, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips, and that's all I need. The conversation shifted as the Zarian delegation arrived, Vorn, the ambassador, and his entourage. Vorn towered over the others, his scaled armor gleaming in the dim light. The air around him seemed to ripple with power, as though the sheer presence of his form alone could command the room. Princess Vera, Vorn's voice resonated with cold elegance. I must admit, you surpass even the tales that reach the Empire. Your beauty is undeniable. His eyes flicked toward Zane, dismissing him almost immediately. And yet, I question the wisdom of having a human present for such delicate negotiations. Zane stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. I'm here at the princess's request, and I assure you, my presence will only strengthen this alliance. Vera didn't flinch under the weight of Vorn's gaze. Ambassador Vorn, I've made my decision. Zane stays, and that's not up for debate. Zane could feel the cold undercurrents of the court's whispers swirling around them. He knew that this was more than just a diplomatic mission. It was a test of loyalty, strength, and the very nature of Vera's leadership. The Zarians would try to manipulate the situation, twist their words, but Vera had something they didn't, something far more powerful than their schemes. Let's proceed with the negotiations, Vera said, her tone decisive, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The discussion around the table quickly turned to trade agreements, but the undercurrent of political maneuvering was impossible to ignore. Zane could see the subtle glances exchanged between the Zarians, how Vorn was watching Vera, sizing her up, trying to gauge how much he could take from her. But Vera didn't flinch. She navigated the conversation with precision, her intelligence shining through. Zane watched in awe as she took control of the room. She wasn't just negotiating. She was commanding respect, demonstrating a quiet but unyielding strength that had nothing to do with her physical form. In that moment, Zane realized something. Vera was more than capable of handling this situation on her own. He wasn't just standing with her because she needed protection. He was standing with her because he believed in her, because he saw her for who she truly was. As the night wore on and the negotiations came to an end, Vera and Zane retreated to her private chambers, the weight of the evening's events still hanging in the air. Despite the political victories and compromises, the tension between the two was undeniable. Zane stood beside her, his voice low. You were incredible in there, but I can see the weight of it. You've been carrying this burden for too long, Vera. She gave him a small, genuine smile, her voice softer now. I'm used to it, Zane, but it's good to know I'm not carrying it alone anymore. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. You never were alone, Vera. Not anymore. The tension in the palace was nearly unbearable. As the day of the trials approached, the atmosphere seemed to crackle with anticipation. The Zarians, with their cold, calculating demeanor, were already making their intentions clear. Vorn had been pushing for these trials since their arrival, and now they would be the determining factor in whether Zane would be allowed to remain by Vera's side, or if he would be discarded as a mere foreign interloper. The first trial, combat, would be the test of Zane's physical prowess, his ability to survive in a battle against the most skilled warriors. However, as he prepared in the royal gardens that evening, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play here than a mere display of strength. Vera's voice interrupted his thoughts as she approached him, her presence always a quiet, powerful force. "You're preparing for a fight you don't need to win," she said softly, her blind eyes focused on him. "This trial is a test of your strength, yes, but not just physical strength." Zane looked at her, his brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean?" Vera's lips curled into a knowing smile. "The Zarians have always believed that strength comes from control, from power over others. But true strength comes from understanding the nature of conflict and how to overcome it. They'll expect you to fight with everything you have, but I'm asking you not to fight like them. Fight with grace. Fight with purpose." Zane nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling over him. He had fought battles before, many of them brutal and unforgiving, but this was different. Vera wasn't asking him to win with his fists. She was asking him to fight with his mind, with his heart. It was a lesson he hadn't expected to learn here in a foreign court, but it was one he would carry with him. The next day, the crystal arena was ready. The floor was covered in shimmering, sharp-edged platforms, each one a deadly obstacle that would test not only his agility, but also his ability to think on his feet. He stood in the center of the arena, his power armor humming softly as he surveyed his surroundings. His heartbeat was steady, but his mind was racing. He knew he had to succeed, not just for himself, but for Vera. The Zarians were watching from their royal seats, their gazes cold and calculating. Horn stood at the front of the arena, his reptilian eyes glowing with an unsettling intensity. "The first trial begins now," he declared, his voice echoing through the arena. Zane felt a surge of energy course through him as the trial began. Immediately, Vorn attacked, his movements quick and precise. The crystal platforms beneath them seemed to come alive, shifting and spinning as if responding to their every movement. Zane moved swiftly, dodging Vorn's attacks with practiced ease. But instead of retaliating with brute force, he focused on the movements around him. He adjusted his stance, finding a rhythm that allowed him to anticipate the shifting terrain. With each step, he became more attuned to the resonance of the crystals beneath him, the subtle hum of energy guiding his movements. As Vorn launched another attack, Zane didn't meet it head-on. Instead, he used the momentum of the shifting crystal platform to redirect the attack, sending the Zarian ambassador stumbling into a nearby barrier. The arena gasped as Zane executed a perfect counterattack, his movements fluid and deliberate. The trial had become less about brute strength and more about adaptability, about using the environment to his advantage. The Zarians were stunned. This was not the battle they had expected. Vorn recovered quickly, his eyes narrowing in fury. He charged at Zane, but the human warrior was ready. He moved with such precision, with such grace, that it almost looked like a dance. In a final move, Zane executed a flawless spin, using the shifting crystals to launch himself into the air. He landed gracefully behind Vorn, the Zarian ambassador's back exposed. With one swift motion, Zane disarmed him, bringing the battle to an end. The arena was silent for a moment before the crowd erupted into applause. Vera, watching from her elevated seat, couldn't suppress the small smile that played on her lips. She had always known that Zane was more than just a soldier. He was a man of substance, capable of seeing the world in ways the Zarians could never understand. As Zane stood tall in the center of the arena, the court's attitude began to shift. The Zarians had expected to see a brutish display of power, but what they had witnessed was something entirely different. Zane had demonstrated not just physical strength, but the wisdom to use his surroundings and his mind to outmaneuver his opponent. It was something that transcended what they had come to expect from anyone who wasn't one of their own. But as Zane caught Vera's gaze, he realized that the trials were far from over. This first victory was just the beginning. The next challenge, wisdom, would be even more difficult. The aftermath of the combat trial had left the court in an uneasy silence. Though Zane had emerged victorious, the subtle shift in power was palpable. Vorn's defeat wasn't just a personal blow, it had shaken the foundation of his ambitions, and Zane knew that the Zarians wouldn't let it go easily. But for now, their focus shifted to the next trial, wisdom. That evening, after the crowds had dispersed and the palace fell into a rare quiet, Zane and Vera found themselves walking through the crystal gardens, their footsteps echoing softly in the moonlight. The gardens were a place of solitude for her, a sanctuary where the calming presence of the crystalline flora helped soothe her mind. As they walked side by side, Vera was unusually quiet, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns in the air as her hover throne moved smoothly beside her. Zane noticed the tension in her posture, the slight furrow of her brow. "You're thinking about the trial," he said softly. Vera's head tilted slightly toward him. "I can't help it. Every step of this process is a game, Zane. And the game isn't just about winning the trials. It's about holding on to something that isn't controlled by others." Zane turned to her, understanding the weight of her words. "I know what you mean, but you don't have to play their game. You're not some prize to be won in a contest." Vera's lips curled into a smile, though it was tinged with sadness. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't see the way they look at me, as if my worth is determined by my body, by my condition? They can't see beyond that. But you see me." His heart raced at her words, at the way her voice softened when she spoke about the way others viewed her. He stepped closer, his presence steady beside her. "I see you for who you truly are, Vera. Not as a princess, not as a diplomat, but as someone who is so much more than what they want you to be." Vera's blind eyes seemed to focus on him as if she could see the sincerity in his gaze. "You don't understand, Zane. To them, I'm an object, something to be bartered with, a means to an end. Vorn is just the tip of the iceberg. The real power players in this game won't rest until they've claimed everything." Zane shook his head. "They don't know who they're dealing with." Her smile widened, but there was still a glimmer of sadness in her eyes. "I hope you're right. I hope you're right about me, Zane. But tomorrow will be another test. Not of our strength, but of our minds. The Zarians will try to break us down intellectually, to make us doubt ourselves." Zane stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Then let them try. You and I, we faced worse than this, right? And we've always come out stronger." Vera's gaze softened, and for a moment, the weight of the court and the trial seemed to vanish, leaving just the two of them in the stillness of the gardens. She reached out, her hand finding his. Her touch was warm, comforting. "You make me believe that maybe, just maybe, I can win this." Zane took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "I don't just believe it, I know it." The moment lingered between them, a quiet understanding passing through the touch of their hands. It was a promise, not of victory in the trials, but of loyalty, of being there for each other, no matter what the future held. The next day, as the wisdom trial began, Zane and Vera entered the grand chamber where the Zarians had set the stage for their test. Vorn, standing tall at the head of the room, addressed them with a cold, calculating smile. "The second trial is one of wisdom," Vorn announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "To see if your minds are as capable as your bodies, you will each be asked to answer a series of questions, questions that could shape the future of this alliance." Vera stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "I'm ready." Zane stood beside her, his body a silent promise of support. He wasn't here just to protect her physically. He was here to back her up in every way. The court might think of him as an outsider, but in this moment, he was her equal, her partner. The first question came from Lord Roland, his eyes fixed on Vera with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. "Princess Vera, tell us, what is the most important element in maintaining power in a kingdom?" Vera didn't hesitate. "It's not power itself that sustains a kingdom, but understanding the people who live within it. If you don't know your people, you'll never truly lead them. Power is meaningless if it doesn't come from compassion and wisdom." The room fell silent. The response was unexpected, deep, insightful. Vorn's eyes narrowed, his smile faltering for a moment. "Impressive," he murmured. "But let's see how your companion fares." Zane stepped forward, his confidence unwavering as he faced the next question. "If the world were to collapse tomorrow, and you were the only one left to rebuild it, what would you do?" Zane's voice was calm, thoughtful as he answered. "I would build it on trust, on mutual respect. It doesn't matter how strong you are or how much you have. What matters is the foundation you create. Without trust, you have nothing." For a moment, the room was still. Then Lord Roland spoke, a grudging respect in his voice. Both answers were unorthodox, but they carry wisdom beyond the surface. Vera and Zane exchanged a brief glance, an unspoken agreement passing between them. This trial was not about winning over their opponents. It was about staying true to who they were. They had already proven their strength in the combat trial, and now they were proving that wisdom and integrity could never be taken from them. The day following the wisdom trial was heavy with unspoken tension. Though both Zane and Vera had proven their worth with grace and intelligence, the looming presence of the Zarians in the palace felt more oppressive than ever. Vorn had lost some of his earlier confidence, but it was clear that he was far from ready to give up on his pursuit of Vera, or on his plans for a political alliance with her that reached far beyond mere diplomacy. Zane and Vera had barely returned to her private chambers when an urgent message arrived from Lord Roland, the chief administrator. His tone was oddly formal, but there was something unsettling beneath the surface. "Princess Vera, there is something you need to see. Immediately." Vera's fingers pressed against her hover throne's interface as she signaled her personal guard. Zane, standing close by, could feel the unease radiating from her. She didn't say anything, but her silence spoke volumes. She knew this wasn't just another courtly matter. Something had changed. As they entered the throne room, Lord Roland was already there, his face unusually pale. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "The Zarians have been investigating," Lord Roland began, his voice strained. "Their spies have uncovered something they believe is of great importance." Vera raised an eyebrow. "What is it, Lord Roland? Speak plainly." Roland hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with what he was about to say. "They believe that your bond with Zane is not just a political inconvenience, it's something far more significant. They suspect that your relationship holds the key to unlocking the secrets of human Lumion compatibility." Zane's hand clenched instinctively at his side, but Vera held up her hand, signaling him to stay calm. Her voice was steady, but the tension in her eyes was undeniable. "So, what exactly are they planning?" "They've already begun discussions in secret," Roland continued, his gaze flicking nervously between them. "They believe your connection is more than just emotional. They think it has the potential to enhance their technologies, to bridge gaps in their genetic engineering. They want to study you both, for scientific purposes." Zane's anger flared, but Vera remained still. She had already suspected that something like this might happen. The Zarians had been interested in her for more than just political reasons from the start, and now the truth was becoming clear. Their feelings for her were tied to what she represented, not just as a princess, but as a potential tool for their genetic experiments. "So they're not interested in diplomacy at all," Vera said quietly, her eyes dark with realization. "They want to use me, us, to advance their empire's agenda." Zane's voice was low and sharp. "They're treating you like an object, something to be used. They can't have you, Vera. Not like this." Vera turned to face him, her expression softening despite the weight of the situation. "You're wrong, Zane. They already have me. They've had me for years, but they've never seen me for who I really am. They only see the princess, the political advantage." Zane took a step closer, his voice full of resolve. "Then they'll never get away with it." The decision was made. No matter the cost, Zane and Vera couldn't let the Zarians manipulate their connection or use Vera for their own gain. The path ahead would be dangerous, but there was no turning back. Vera placed her hand on his arm, her touch gentle yet firm. "This isn't just about us anymore, Zane. This is about every Lumion who has been treated as less because of what they can't do. Every person who has been told that they aren't worth anything because of their physical limitations. We have to stop them, not just for us, but for everyone." Zane nodded, his heart swelling with pride for the woman standing before him. She was more than a princess. She was a leader, a revolutionary, and he would follow her to the ends of the galaxy if it meant helping her fight for what was right. "The Zarians have been moving fast," Zane murmured under his breath, eyes narrowing as Vorn and his guards stepped into the grand chamber. His gaze flicked to Vera, and she gave him a subtle nod, her expression calm but resolute. Vorn, walking with calculated poise, eyed them both with a chilling mix of disdain and calculated malice. His cold reptilian eyes gleamed as he surveyed the room, taking in the quiet hum of the palace's crystal technology surrounding them. The power in the air was palpable, as though the very walls were alive with energy. "Princess Vera, Zane," Vorn said, his voice dripping with venom, You think you can disrupt the balance of power with your petty rebellion? You have no idea what you've unleashed. Zane stepped forward, standing tall and unwavering. We haven't unleashed anything, Vorn. You've been playing a game, and now the pieces have moved in a direction you didn't expect. Vera's voice broke the tension as she stepped forward, her demeanor calm but fierce. You see us as tools, objects to be controlled, to be exploited. But we are more than that. You've underestimated the power of choice, the power of love, and that, Vorn, is something you can never control. The Zarian ambassador's eyes flickered with rage, but he quickly masked it with a cold, calculating smile. You're a fool, Vera. This is bigger than you. This is about the future of our empires, our species. You have no idea what you're risking. Vera's voice was quiet, yet it resonated through the chamber with a certainty that cut through the tension. I understand exactly what I'm risking, but we're not going to let you destroy what we've built. Not for your empire, not for your science. We'll fight for the future of both our worlds, no matter what it takes. Zane stood firmly beside her, his jaw clenched, his stance unwavering. The words Vera spoke were not just about them, not just about their love or their bond. This was about something bigger. This was about freedom, the right to choose, to not be manipulated or treated as objects. Vorn's fury deepened, but Vera's calmness, combined with the silent strength that stood beside her, seemed to rattle him. He opened his mouth to speak again, but stopped when the crystals around them began to pulse, their hum growing stronger. The walls flickered with light, shifting as if reacting to the surge of energy, the power Vera had unlocked. I've already shown you the future, Vorn spat, his voice raw with anger. You may have played your hand for now, but you will regret this. Vera's blind eyes shimmered as she locked her gaze onto Vorn, her voice now ringing with authority. You want to control us? Then you'll have to face the consequences. We will not be your experiments. We will not be your slaves. As her words echoed, the palace's crystal network resonated with a brilliant burst of light and energy. It was as if the entire palace, its very heart, was awakening to her command. The power she had tapped into, the shared connection between herself and Zane, was more than just a symbol. It was real, tangible, and it was theirs to command. The Zarians recoiled as the light intensified, their technology failing as the crystal network destabilized their hold on the palace's systems. Vorn snarled in frustration, his mind racing to comprehend the sudden shift in control. But it was too late. Vera had taken the reins. We are not your test subjects, Vera declared with a quiet strength that filled the room. And we will not be silenced. You want to understand the future of our people? Then watch closely, Vorn. This is only the beginning. The room was thick with the tension of impending storm, the air crackling with the energy Vera had awakened. The Zarians, for all their power, were left reeling, unable to regain their grip on the palace. The future they had imagined, one of manipulation and control, was slipping through their fingers. Vera and Zane stood side by side, their bond unbroken, their resolve stronger than ever. The road ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain: they would not bow to anyone. Their fight was just beginning, and together, they would shape the future of both their worlds, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Princess Vera, Zane, Vorn said, his voice dripping with disdain. You think you can disrupt the balance of power with your petty rebellion? You have no idea what you've unleashed. Zane stood tall beside Vera, his voice unwavering. We haven't unleashed anything, Vorn. You've been playing a game, and now the pieces have moved in a direction you didn't expect. Vera stepped forward, her expression calm but fierce. You see us as tools, as objects to be controlled, to be exploited, but we are more than that. You've underestimated the power of choice, the power of love, and that, Vorn, is something you can never control. Vorn's eyes flashed, a mixture of rage and disbelief crossing his features. You're a fool, Vera. This is bigger than you. This is about the future of our empires, our species. You have no idea what you're risking. You're wrong, Vera replied softly but with conviction. I understand exactly what I'm risking, but we're not going to let you destroy what we've built. Not for your empire, not for your science. We'll fight for the future of both our worlds, no matter what it takes. The tension in the room reached a boiling point, the crystal walls flickering with energy as if they were reacting to the surge of emotions around them. In that moment, the Zarians knew they couldn't break Vera or Zane. Their bond, emotional, intellectual, and even physical, was something far beyond anything the Zarians had prepared for. The true battle wasn't one of weapons or politics. It was about freedom, autonomy, and the power to define one's own path. As the room filled with whispers of dissent from the Zarians, a low, vibrating hum filled the air, the unmistakable sound of the crystal network activating. Vera's voice rang out, loud and clear, commanding the attention of the entire assembly. "You want to control us?" she said, her voice firm and resolute. "Then you'll have to face the consequences. We will not be your experiments. We will not be your slaves." Suddenly, the crystals began to resonate, their frequencies shifting as if in response to her words. The walls shimmered, a brilliant array of light and energy enveloping the palace. Vera had unlocked a power she had never fully understood until now, a power born of her connection to Zane, to the crystal network, and to the very essence of who she was. It was more than technology. It was a manifestation of the love and understanding between them. The Zarians recoiled in surprise, the crystal fields destabilizing their technology, disrupting their command over the palace. Vorn snarled, his eyes filled with fury, but it was too late. Vera had taken control. "We are not your test subjects," Vera declared, "and we will not be silenced. You want to understand the future of our people? Then watch closely, Vorn. This is only the beginning." The air was thick with the impending storm, but as the crystal network pulsed with energy, a sense of uncertainty lingered in the air. The Zarians might have been pushed back for now, but there were other forces at play. Forces in the shadows of both Lumian and Zarian courts that were far more powerful and dangerous than even Vorn. Vera and Zane stood together, side by side, their bond stronger than ever before. But the road ahead was uncertain. There would be no easy victory. The future was open, full of challenges, and the galaxy would change forever. But for now, the message had been sent. Vera and Zane were not to be controlled. They would shape their own destiny. And in the stillness that followed the storm, the faintest of whispers echoed across the vastness of space, carrying a new tale. A tale of defiance, love, and of the uncertain path ahead.